Greetings, kindred. Happy new moon to you all. I do love the new moon. It's all about new beginnings, bringing in new perspectives, especially in this particular instance with the moon in Gemini. So I would say at a new moon, it's good to meditate on bringing new stuff in. And the full moon really is for letting old stuff go. So I'd really work at the full moon first on letting stuff go before you work at the new moon, bringing new stuff in. So let's begin. So the new moon will begin on the 5th of July, 2024 at 23:57 here in the GMT time zone, at 18:57 in the EDT time zone, and on the 6th of July at 8:57 in the AEDT time zone. And the moon and sun actually will be at 13 degrees in Gemini. So at the last full moon, when I did my video, there was a lot of Gemini influence in that chart. And I said it was going to be really active, like with communications, media and stuff like that. Even publicly, it's a very busy time. And, with the moon and sun now conjuncting in Gemini together, it's bringing about a fresh perspective, new media coverages, like just new, really, but it's also an escalation from the full moon. So some things have kind of like been put to the side, and maybe there's like or it's an escalation of the busyness. Do you know what I mean? But the one thing that really does stand out in this chart to me is this Star of David we have, you know. I mean, some people consider the Star of David to be a really good grand aspect, and it is in a sense. I mean, the Star of David is all about magic, and whether that's dark or light. Um, it's also, I mean, whenever we get a Star of David in our skies as a pattern forming between the planets and points, we also always get a grand cross. So, it can be a very competitive energy in a certain respect. I mean, the triangles themselves, the way they overlap, it's kind of like as above is below. And yeah, it is a very auspicious aspect. And but depending on the players and the signs. So with one of the grand trines within this aspect, Star of David aspect, we have Saturn, who's started his retrograde recently in Aquarius, in trine to Pallas. Pallas is in trine to Venus, our moon and sun, although it's our moon and sun that's within this grand trine aspect, and the sun and moon again in trine to Saturn, going this way round. The other grand trine, which is here, is a fire trine. So we have, well, it's fire and earth at this point because we've got Mars coming into conjunction with Uranus, but Uranus is 2 degrees in Taurus at present, and Mars is at 20 degrees in his own sign of Aries. So he's a very dominating force and has been since the full moon. But they will actually come into conjunction just before Mercury goes into pre-shadow, which we'll get into in a minute. But this is still considered a conjunction because when we have the outer planets, their energy is very vast. And because they're more slower moving, their energy kind of is more established in the spot they're in. Mars is a little bit faster moving, so he will come into conjunction and it's that conjunction with Uranus over the next week or so. So we have an air grand trine within the Star of David and a fire, air and fire. That's like, wow. It can be quite an explosive time with all this busy energy. And it's normally, Gemini's more, I mean, Gemini's an air sign himself, but it's more on a mental level. It's more with mutability. It's a very mutable sign. But so is Sagittarius. So again, it's all this mutability that's kind of occurring, you know, and with the Star of David, it is kind of like all different perspectives and opinions kind of being negotiated. So let's get into the aspects. I mean, first of all, I mean, with the moon in Gemini, like I said, it's busy communicative time. There's still a lot going on around the headspace. Like I did pick up on headaches around the full moon, but it also is a very restless energy, like can't keep still. But as with all air signs, Gemini can be very detached from their emotions, like Aquarius can. Libra is always looking for balance, but again, they can detach themselves from their emotions, and sometimes the mind and heart can become too far apart from each other. But, there's a lot of passion here as well. So let's talk about Star of David first. Let's start with the Moon and Sun trine, grand trine. So we have the Moon and Sun in trine to Saturn. That gives us patience and endurance, and that's where we can kind of be a bit shrewd about, putting our perspective across, because I feel this Star of David is all about perspective. And, we can be very clever in getting people to see our point of view. And then we have Saturn who's in trine to Pallas. Now, this is very strategic thinking, but also it can hype up the potentials to get others to, again, come into agreement. But, this isn't really about new ideas. This is more about old protocols and bringing them, still working on bringing them in. So it's a long-term project, a long-term goal that this kind of particular grand trine is concentrating on. So it's not bringing nothing new to the table. It's just really re-establishing or pushing forward, protocols that have already been put into place. And then we have, of course, Pallas in trine to the moon and sun. So this gives us a really good understanding, gives us also really good instincts. So we're able to like really be very mature in how we approach things. We're able to control our emotions really with Saturn here as well, and the goddess Pallas, who's all about pattern recognition, strategies and solutions, seeing things as they are. So, you know, this grand trine is basically saying, let's keep to the protocols. Let's initiate something, else now. We've come to a conclusion on one part of the protocol. Now we're ready to pull in the next part. So I hope this is all making sense to you. You know, and then we have this other grand trine that's in the opposite direction with Mars and Uranus on one point, in trine to Juno on the other point, and Juno's in trine to the goddess Ceres on the other point, coming back to Uranus and Mars. Now, this is completely different. This is not really rational in the respect of like passion, especially since this is the fire, has Uranus in Earth at the moment, but Uranus is really disturbing the Taurian energy right now. And when Mars comes in and comes into conjunction, which will occur in Taurus, wow, so I would say all you Tauruses out there, 13 star sign Tauruses, you're in for a little bit of an erratic time, very impulsive, very un-Taurian actually. So, yeah, I feel the Taurian energy is really going to be kind of turned upside down on its head. And, since 2019, I think it was, we did have Uranus transiting through Aries. So really, this is going to be when Mars comes into conjunction with Uranus in Taurus, it really is going to be like a grand finale, So again, we'll get into that in a minute. So this particular grand trine is very chaotic. It's very impulsive, rebellious, fights against restrictions. It's actually very revolutionary. It wants to bring in new stuff, but enjoys extremities. I mean, this is one that really can go off the rails, this grand trine through passion, but it's not going off the rails in the way of like just causing a disturbance for no reason at all. It's a very humanitarian energy. So this is all about protection and but with Ceres in trine to Juno, I mean, to me, this is all about like-minded people coming together. This is definitely a union, very much a soulmate energy. But I just feel that this air grand trine, where there's a lot of talks going on, and it's all about pushing forward on protocols already set. This one here is actually fighting against it. That's how I'm seeing this Star of David right now. And then, of course, we have the outsiders, which are all the sextiles, all the potentials of what can come out of this meeting here. Um, what we got to remember is that, Mars, the Aryan energy, is very much the protector. I say protector of the underdog, and I don't really like that expression like underdog. Do you know what I mean? He will fight for his family, he will fight for his friends. He's the one that will stand up against, restrictions and injustices when it comes to, the vulnerable. And Uranus is very much a higher consciousness energy. Also, the ruler of Aquarius, which is all about humanitarianism, fairness for humanity, balance for humanity. So it will work very much towards that. So when these two unite, wow, they're both very rebellious and very independent planets. So like I said, in Taurus, it's going to cause up a bit of a stir. And Taurus is really all about our comforts, our security, our homes, our finances, the economy and stuff like that. So I feel there's a bit of a shake-up going on here around about the new moon and the next 2 weeks after that. And just like the air trine with Saturn. I mean, this is endurance to, really look at the long term and have the discipline to see it through to the end. So you would think with this other grand trine, because it's so erratic and passionate and a little bit chaotic, that it's going to be the opposite, because I say the quicker the fire burns is the quicker it kind of like gets put out. But not in this instance, because Juno is very loyal, especially in Leo, and in trying to both Uranus and Mars shows a lot of dedication to the cause, you know, especially with Ceres there as well. But Ceres normally brings up abandonment issues. I mean, Ceres does actually represent, you know, like childhood abuse, like in the respect of abandonment, neglect, um, and stuff like that. So I would say, there's a lot of nervous energy going on this new moon. Even with Mars and Uranus coming into conjunction, I mean, that creates a lot of nervous energy in itself. With the Black Moon Lilith conjunct the South Node, nervous energy. And, the moon and sun in Gemini, Gemini is all about nervous energy. So the moon and sun are also coming into conjunction with Venus, who's in Gemini. I mean, this is beautiful in the respect that we can fall in love with the idea of love itself, but we see the beauty in things. We have this deep, soulful appreciation for beautiful things or things that are harmonious. So we can go through that. It's a very compassionate energy. So, there may be something that occurs that kicks all this off. And, the moon and sun the moon will come into conjunction with Venus quicker than the sun. Um, so let's get into the sextiles. What can we take from this clashing of different energies? I mean, they're both loyal and they're both in it for the long term, but it's still a difference of opinion. Um, so with Mars actually in sextile to Saturn, this is all about, this can be kind of very confrontational actually, because Mars is very confrontational and Saturn can be confrontational when he's agitated, especially since he's in the sign of Aquarius, because there's a little bit more freer in Aquarius than he is his own sign of Capricorn. But he is in retrograde, so he is, reflecting on kind of past actions. So maybe Mars is forcing him to look at really, or making him come to terms with, where things went right and where things went wrong. But it can be a little bit kind of like cold, the outlook. So then we have Uranus also in trine to Saturn, in sextile to Saturn, sorry. And this sextile is all about taking our responsibilities serious and finding like constructive solutions, really. So whilst the first grand trine wants to follow the protocol, the other one wants something different, something that's more in alignment with the well-being of the people they love and want to protect. So this is what Uranus is putting forward to Saturn. So there's opportunities there for growth, for a deeper understanding. So because Saturn can be quite cold and just do his job and not really consider those around him at times, I think Uranus and Mars is really helping him to understand, what those plans, what's wrong with them, why they don't benefit or serve in the long run. Maybe they serve the protocol, but they don't serve the people. So I feel this is maybe what, Uranus and Mars and Saturn are all coming into an understanding of. And with Mars in sextile to the sun and the moon, um, this gives a lot of energy, a lot of emotional energy, and a lot of kind of like conscience energy. So because the moon is going to be strong because it is a new moon, I feel like there can be a few triggers going off if certain things are pushed, if boundaries are crossed. Do you know what I mean? I feel like there can be certain emotional triggers with that, which can be quite explosive, but in a positive sense, it does give us a lot of energy to really push forwards on things that we need to complete or things that we need to start, especially since this is a new moon. It could be all about things or new projects, new things that we want to start, new groups, etc. But with Ceres in sextile to Saturn, this is all about our emotional needs, needing a stable foundation, but also, being responsible for ourselves, especially when it comes to, how others perceive us. So again, if there's healing that needs to be done there, then we need to do that. Like I said, this is very much, I mean, all the goddesses really have abandonment issues, Vesta, Juno, Pallas, and Ceres. The only difference is Pallas and Vesta found their power in their passions. With Vesta, it's all about our spiritual passions, our temple within. This is coming into a powerful inner understanding, whereas Pallas found her power or her healing in reflection, in having the ability to see patterns in things and coming up with solutions and strategies. So really, she taught herself to understand her life and why she went through the cycles that she went through. But with Ceres and Juno, are these are the goddesses that still kind of suffer a little bit. These are the ones that still need healing. These are the ones that still hold that a little bit of vulnerability. Like I said, with Ceres, it's about children. With Juno, it's about relationships and relationships when it comes to marriage, when it comes to business partnerships, where we are having to put in a lot of effort, you know, um, to hold things together. So that's where the vulnerability is. But the fact they're in trine, they're very supporting of each other. So this sextile with Ceres and Pallas, I mean, maybe Pallas is coming up with solutions for Ceres, just as Saturn is with Ceres. So maybe taking into consideration like our children and our children's future. And then we have, of course, Pallas in sextile to Juno. So, seeing what is needed really for growth, seeing what is needed when it comes to forming boundaries and knowing when to kind of let go, if you know what I mean. And, being more creative with our way forward. So, giving us the vision and putting in the commitment to achieve long-term goals, because like I said, Juno is very, very loyal and Pallas will fight for justice. So they are very supporting. They are very supportive of this Uranus-Mars energy. And then Juno will be in sextile to the sun and moon, which is all about, being committed to our emotional well-being, following our instincts and trying not to be too detached from them. Because with the moon and sun in Gemini, we can be detached from our instincts. We can be detached from our emotions. So that is something we need to work on, especially with this Mars sextile, Mars Uranus even sextile Saturn. So yeah, I mean, there's going to be a lot going on, definitely. And we could see kind of explosive situations during this time. And let's get to the Grand Cross because this is the crux of the problems, really. That the start or the tension, the high tension points, which is the moon and sun, the South Node and the Black Moon Lilith. The goddess Ceres, and here just the South Node. So this is like very, very powerful, especially with the nodes and the Black Moon Lilith involved and our new moon. And the Black Moon Lilith conjunct the South Node. Now this is like we can't move forwards because in Virgo, we can't move forward because we keep looking at where we went wrong in life, where we failed, which prevents us from moving forward to the future. Do you know what I mean? So we can be a little bit stuck with this energy, stuck in our shadow, stuck in our fear of failure, or just feeling exhausted. Maybe the nervous energy that's surrounding, this Star of David aspect, which is I mean, it's a major aspect. We can be feeling really drained on a physical level. And this could be stomach issues as well. Could be, stuff going on around the stomach. Could be digestive issues for all this nervous energy. And because we are detached as well, we're too much in our heads and not enough in our body. So I really do feel we need to make sure that we're grounded. We're grounded in our bodies. We've got our 2 feet on the ground because I just feel that this is a very up in the air energy, very up in the headspace, very up in the heavens. But there's a little bit of lacking when it comes to like earthing and grounding. So in the Northern Hemisphere here, it's a good time to get outside, get your feet on grass, get your feet on concrete for grounding, do some gardening, or grounding, any grounding techniques that work for you. Because I think that's going to be very important. Now, we've also got Chiron in square as well to Venus. So that can be like wanting to become some kind of therapist, having compassion for things that make us want to get out there and help heal others. Or we could be dealing with like issues from our own lack of like, trying to find happiness, or there's a lack of happiness. It's a very pressured time. But for some of us, we are getting into that mode of compassion where we want to help others. And for others, it's a case of like doing some healing work on our own emotions where we have been detached and we haven't really gone inside and done the work. So this is like a lot of shadow work going on here. And Venus being in square to Chiron, who's in Pisces, it's kind of emotional. So overall, this Grand Cross is showing me that, there's a lot of petty problems going on with the sun and moon in square to the North Node. There could be family problems. Maybe we're having difficulty in being heard. And with the North Node in square to Ceres, we're trying to bring in a balance between that, our thoughts. But like I said, with the North Node, the North Node isn't something we achieve like is portrayed out there. It's a planetary point that creates milestones. And no sooner have we completed one milestone, another one will pop up in front of us. So it's always an anticlimax. Do you know what I mean? So, there's a lot of conflicting energy there. Because I feel we're reaching another milestone at the moment. And then we have Ceres in opposition to the moon in this grand cross aspect, which I just spoke about. that creates a lot of tension, a lot of duality, especially when it comes to our emotions and relationships. There can be abandonment issues come up, that come from childhood, neglect issues. And, on the whole, sometimes with this aspect, we have to agree to disagree as well. So overall, I just feel like it's this to in and fro in. It's a battle of wills. Um, a lot of pushing boundaries or, pushing ideas, and really in a logical way, but it's kind of making it look better than what it actually is? So we just need to watch out for that. But then, like I said, Mercury will go into pre-shadow. Let's look at that chart a little bit. So this is the chart wheel for Mercury going into pre-shadow. Now, this won't be the retrograde itself, but I always do the pre-shadow and the post-shadow because, like, this degree, when Mercury starts his pre-shadow, is the degree that Mercury will retrograde back to. That's why it's important. So this is the pre-shadow phase, which is known as phase one. Okay? Because someone asked me to explain that. So when I say pre-shadow energy, it's not the actual retrograde itself, it's the pre-shadow energy, it's the build-up. And the reason why this is relevant is because, through all the 10 years I've been doing this and how I was taught is that we should always take the pre-shadow into consideration because the pre-shadow and the post-shadow are just as relevant as the retrograde itself and just as potent at times as well, if not sometimes more so. So this is kind of like the building up towards the retrograde itself. So the pre-shadow will start at 3 degrees, which is the number of Jupiter in the sign of Leo. Now, this can be very dominating energy when it comes to like, pushing our perspective onto others, but we can be very exaggerative with that as well, especially since Mercury is at number 3, which is the number of Jupiter, which is all about, or, not all about, but does include expansiveness. Jupiter is of expansiveness and exaggeration too in his own energy. So I just feel that, yeah, the new moon's going to be bringing about new perspectives to people. And I just feel, with this energy, as Mercury goes into pre-shadow, it is really all about power plays and, putting pressure on himself to impress others with his knowledge, with his plans. And, the good thing is with this energy, the positive side of this is, we can evaluate the totality of situations rather than getting stuck on the details. So, on the negative, we can be too pushing our opinions onto other people, but in the other respect, it could be, work out in our best interests depending on the aspects. Now, I'm not going to go into this chart too much because, as always, I will be writing an article about the all 3 phases of the Mercury retrograde. So that will be the pre-shadow, the retrograde itself, and the post-shadow. And I normally do when the post-shadow ends as well. So, it's quite a long article I write. I've also written one on Uranus entering into Taurus this year, and you can read that because I go right through to next year with that one as well, talking about when Uranus goes into retrograde in a couple of months' time, and when he kind of comes out of retrograde in the new year or in late December, something like that. And also when he retrogrades back into Aries, which I think actually happens around about the end of December as well, if I remember rightly. So both those articles will be, well, the Mercury retrograde one isn't available yet, but I shall definitely get that up and let you know when that's ready to view. But the Uranus one the link to that will be in the description box below wherever you're watching this. And if you're on my website, I think it's like a video or two down from this one. Or I can link it actually. I can link it there. So I should do that for you. So yeah, so we can expect to have quite a continuation of busy energy, but also yeah, we could see certain things kicking off. I think things have been kicking off anyway. I'm not really sure, but from what I saw in the last chart wheel, I did see like, things escalating, and I can see that again with this chart wheel. So yeah, just watch out for that. Oh wow, I've just seen a yod here as well with Jupiter and Venus, Jupiter and sextile to Venus, creating a yotl Ceres and feeling vulnerable. But I just feel there's going to be some kind of like 15 degrees. I mean, that's the number where yeah, like wrongdoings will be put right. I just feel it's again connected to children. Yeah, let's watch out for this. When's that? That's 17th of July. Mercury goes into pre-shadow. Now the energies don't actually happen on the day. They may happen like a day or two before or a day or two afterwards. But this yod, yeah, I can't wait now. I've got to get this article done. So I'm going to be doing that over the next few days. And like I said, I'll let you all know when that's out. Because we're coming up to some interesting times at the moment. From here onwards, I just feel the charts are getting more and more kind of busy. Just put it that way. But anyway, I'm going to leave it there, Kindred. I don't want to make this video too long. And as always, I'm sending you peace and much love. Take care.